Hello, I'm Henry, and welcome to Health Professional Radio. On board with us today is Brad Gray of Planet Ark Environmental Foundation. Brad trained and worked as a history and geography teacher before getting into and working in the health and environment education sector. His passion for our surroundings and for nurturing our environment led him to starting the Planet Ark Environmental Foundation back in 2007. Planet Ark Environmental Foundation's aim is to help unite people, businesses, and governments through positive environmental actions. This December, they have a campaign called the 12 Do's of Christmas. Today, Brad is with us in studio to talk about the 12 Do's of Christmas, their current campaign. Hi, Brad. Welcome to the show. Glad to have you on board.
G'day. How you going?
And for our first question, can you tell us a little bit more about yourself and what you do?
Yes, so Planet Ark is an environmental organisation. So we have been running for about 21 years. And what we focus on is encouraging people to take positive action in their daily life. So really what that's about is giving people strategies for reducing their impact in terms of the waste that they generate, or encourage them to get in contact with nature, which has both environmental and, importantly, health outcomes. And also encouraging people to switch to low-carbon lifestyles, so things like solar panels or energy efficiency, all of which very much focus on the environment. But one of the things that we absolutely recognise is that a healthy environment creates healthy people as well.
And what inspired you into getting into this line of work?
Look, I've always had a bit of an interest in it. So as you said before, I used to work in the health sector for a long time, and so for about 14 years. So I worked at the AIDS Council of New South Wales in the education area of the organisation. I suppose over the last few years there, I was kind of seeing that the environment had direct links to health, and I've always been interested in the environment. So it was kind of a natural progression from, in human health, individual human health, to kind of environmental health, and a bit of a link between the two of those is what kind of really interests me.
And with your new campaign for this December, how did you come up with the 12 Do's of Christmas?
Yeah, so we came up with this campaign, and this is the fourth year we've run it. We came up with this campaign because essentially what we did is we looked around. We do a lot of recycling information and recycling education, and what we noticed is that at the Christmas period, people buy more, eat more, drink more, and party more than any other time of the year, and each one of those actions has a negative environmental outcome associated with it, and that is basically increased waste. So at this period of time, there is so much extra waste being generated that waste in garbage and recycling bins become increasingly full. Recycling companies in Australia need to put on extra shifts to be able to deal with the waste that's coming through their systems. So essentially what we're encouraging people to do is over this period and look for ways that they can reduce that. And if they can't reduce it, to make sure they're dealing with it properly. So sending it to the proper recycling systems, or doing the right thing with it. So if it can't be recycled, then putting it in the right bin so it gets disposed of correctly.
And can you give us a quick rundown on what the 12 Do's of Christmas are?
Yeah, so there's a few of them. So first of all, there's a couple that kind of group around making sure you're buying good quality, either Christmas decorations, so either making Christmas decorations yourself, or buying good quality ones that you use year after year. If you buy cheap plastic ones that break in the first year, they'll end up in landfill, and that's no good to anybody. So that's do number one. And that's similar to do number four, which is actually about kind of wrapping paper. So if you're giving gifts, give them in either reusable things like those bags that can use year after year, or look for something that you know is recyclable. So wrapping paper, so actual paper, is recyclable in every council in Australia, and probably most other places as well. But the plastic wrap or the foil wrapping paper is not recyclable. So we encourage people not to buy that stuff, to buy the paper stuff, and then you can actually recycle it. And things like keeping ribbons and bows out of the recycling bin because they actually get caught in the recycling machinery. So that's do's number 1 and 4. Number 2 is really about your work Christmas party. If you're having that, most workplaces now recycle pretty well. At the work Christmas party, if there's an event going on there, the recycling kind of tends to fall down a little bit. So we've got signage and information to encourage people to set up proper recycling bins so the bottles and cans and other things that get used there gets recycled properly.
Mm-hmm.
Another one of the really important ones is food waste. So Australians over the Christmas period will spend about $19 billion on food, and a lot of that stuff goes to waste. So we encourage people to shop with a list. So you're buying to a list and avoid impulse purchases.
Yep.
And also really think about whether you need to be catering as much as you do. And there's this really interesting thing called the Christmas calorie heat map, which maps how many calories that people in different countries around the world consume over the Christmas period. And in the United States, France, and the UK eat the most calories. So they're eating more than 3,500 calories over the Christmas period. And they're also throwing a lot of food out. Interestingly, Japan comes way down the list. They probably don't celebrate Christmas in the same way, not being a country with a Christian background. But what's happened in Japan over the last 20 years is KFC. People go to KFC at Christmas Day and they get a kind of a box meal at Christmas Day. And unusually, what that actually means is they're eating less calories than most other places because that's kind of pretty much all they're kind of focused on. Australia is kind of in the second tier of countries eating between 2,500 and 3,000 calories in the day of Christmas. And countries like Lithuania actually are the best. Actually, they've got the lowest calorie intake, about 1,500 calories over Christmas Day, and they actually don't tend to eat their Christmas Day meal on Christmas Day. They do it on Christmas Eve, and they have fish, no dessert, and no alcohol. So you can see that even in that kind of respect, what you see is Christmas is celebrated very differently in different places. And in terms of what we consume over the Christmas period, they can vary vastly. And also what we end up throwing out varies vastly as well. So we encourage people to cater sensibly, don't go overboard. If you've bought your 6 packets of chips, for example, or your 3 packets of mince pies or all that kind of stuff, put 1 or 2 of them out at a go. When people finish them, then put more out. And that way you're kind of feeding people to, what's there. The chips don't go stale and soggy over the day and you don't have to throw them out. It means you've got them for the next day and then you don't, you're not wasting the money that goes into buying those things as well. A couple of the other do's revolve around technology. So do number 8 and number 9 really are very much about technology. And increasingly over the last decade or so, technology has become much more common gift. So new mobile phones, new computers and things like printers, that kind of stuff. And things that need batteries, so toys or other gadgets that need batteries. And what we encourage people to do is to make sure that they're recycling those things wherever they can. So there's a free program for mobile phones called Mobile Muster in Australia, run by the industry. There's an organisation called Tech Collect, run by the computer and television industry, and they can recycle TVs and computers for free. And what that actually means is that the toxic materials in phones and TVs and computers actually get collected and recycled properly and safely in those facilities, and they don't end up in our environment. And importantly, they don't end up getting exported overseas to countries that don't have such strong environmental standards. And when that happens, it has huge and significant impacts on the local population because the toxins end up leaking into the environment. So we encourage people to check out things like our website, which is recyclingnearyou.com.au, and that'll tell you where you can recycle those things like computers, TVs, printer cartridges. And in terms of batteries, what we encourage is if you're actually giving a present that involves a battery, then buy a battery recharger as well, because what that actually means is you end up using a lot less batteries over the life of the present. You throw out a lot less batteries and it costs a lot less money. It costs about 1 cent to recharge a battery compared to $2 or $3 to buy a new one. At Christmas, we encourage you to do things like inflate your car tires, make sure the car is tuned, empty the car of anything that doesn't need to go with you, because what that actually means is your car will run much more efficiently and produce a lot less carbon dioxide because it uses a lot less fuel over the journeys as well. So they're kind of the 12 do's, the things we want people to focus on. Bit of planning at the beginning of the process. You're being responsible when you're actually serving food and that kind of stuff, and then making sure you're recycling or disposing of the things become inevitable waste at the end of the process, and enjoy your Christmas. That's really what it's all about.
All right. And since you guys have a lot of campaigns during the year, how do you come up with the ideas of making new campaigns during the year?
Look, we've got kind of three areas where we work, and one of those is resource reduction, using resources effectively. So basically, we kind of look around and see where there are resources that are not being used efficiently. So we're currently working on a program, for example, to increase coffee ground recycling. Mm-hmm. Coffee grounds have got a lot of valuable material in them. They can be turned into oil. So you can actually generate oil from coffee grounds. It can be used for compost. It can be used to grow mushrooms. Mm-hmm. And in most cafes, the coffee grounds are actually separated out independent of all the other waste. So it means it's easier to process because it's already separated. So we look at things like that. So what's actually happening where you can tap into a resource. We also look at things that are important. And our Tree Day, National Tree Day, is one of our biggest campaigns. And it's a really interesting one. And it's been running for 21 years. And for the last 5 years, we've been looking at how the campaign runs. And it used to be mostly, or almost entirely, about putting trees in the ground, and particularly native trees in the ground. And that was really important and remains important. But what we also discovered is that there are health benefits for kids in particular, but for everyone more generally, of being outside and in contact with nature. It reduces stress, it reduces anxiety, it reduces ADHD. People in hospitals who can see trees from the hospital bed recover more quickly than people who can't. Kids who can see trees or have plants in the classroom learn better than kids that don't. And so essentially what we then look to do is develop a campaign around encouraging people to have more contact with nature as well, for both the environmental benefit. If a kid is outside, they appreciate the nature that's there. When they grow up, they'll want to look after it. And also it actually means they'll grow up healthier because they're in contact with nature. So that's kind of how we do it. We look around and see what's going on in society and what might need to be addressed.
And can you tell us a little bit more about your campaigns? Which are the successful ones and which are the most popular ones?
Yeah, so we've got a few. I'll talk about a couple of them. Our Cartridges for Planet Ark program is probably one of our most successful campaigns, actually. And basically what it's about is most workplaces and most homes have printers or photocopiers, and they need to change the cartridges in them fairly regularly. And those cartridges are mostly made out of plastic, which means if they go to landfill, they'll sit there for many, many years, 400 years, up to 1,000 years. And that's obviously not good for the environment. Yeah. And what we actually did is we got together with some of the biggest cartridge manufacturers, so Brother, Canon, Epson, HP, Konica Minolta, and Kyocera, and worked with them to fund a program, which means all of the cartridges they produce can be brought back to a central location and recycled into new and useful products. And we've got about 30,000 workplaces across the country that are involved in that program. And about 4,000 retail collection points. And basically what that means is anybody who has printer cartridges can actually find somewhere where they can recycle them. So that's one of our most successful campaigns. Tree Day is obviously one of our most successful campaigns, as I said. We have about 250,000 school kids and about 50,000 general public participating in Tree Day every year. So that's many, many hours by people outside, getting involved in nature, looking after the natural environment. So they're probably two of our most successful campaigns, actually, and they have huge involvement across the country. So it's very important.
With regards to the main takeaway message that you want our audience to hear, what would that be?
The main message we encourage people to hear is that you can actually make changes in your own life. So a lot of environmental campaign is actually about protecting places somewhere else. So protecting rainforests, protecting the Great Barrier Reef, protecting a particular animal. And those campaigns are actually really, really important. We encourage people to get involved in those, but they're not actually what you do in your own life. And you can do a lot in your own life. You can recycle properly. You can reduce buying products if you don't need them. You go outside and volunteer for an organization that plants trees and looks after them. You can choose to buy better environmental products like recycled office paper or recycled toilet paper. So in your own life, you can make changes that have a positive environmental benefit. And that's what our campaigns are all about, encouraging people to look at what you're doing at home, at work, or at school, making a couple of changes and improving your impact on the environment.
And for our last question, how can anyone who's interested in volunteering and helping support your cause reach you guys and probably talk to you?
So the best thing that you can do is actually check out our website. Our general website is planetarc.org, and that links off to all of our individual campaigns. So if you check that one out, planetarc.org, you'll be able to find all of our campaigns, what you need to do with them, recycling information, and our contact details there. Anyone got any questions? We're more than happy to respond to them.
Awesome. Well, that's all our questions for today. Thank you for being on the show, Brad.
Thank you very much.
And that was Brad Gray, founder and the head of campaigns of Planet Arc Environmental Foundation. We just finished talking about how to help save the environment and the 12 do's of Christmas and also the Christmas calorie heat map. I'm Henry, and you're listening to Health Professional Radio. If you want to listen to this interview again, you can go on www.healthprofessionalradio.com.au or on hpr.fm. You can also hit the subscribe button and find us on SoundCloud and iTunes. And thank you, Brad. We appreciate it.